you are a lecturer in cultural history, right? So, as you mentioned, the performing arts, film. You've written about this. I mean, for example, you wrote about the way that empire was treated in 1970s drama, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, for example, which I find fascinating. I wonder, Philip, what do you see if you look at the drama today on television and similar? What will it tell us looking back? If you were writing in the future looking back, what will it tell us about the state we're in at the moment? Or what will it tell us about our preoccupations at the moment?
God, that's a good question. I'll answer it in relation to one show, and that was A Christmas Carol at Christmas. Right. I don't know whether you saw it.
Yes, I did indeed.
Yeah. I wouldn't ordinarily watch it, but you're with family and you're bullied into doing these things. I'd rather go upstairs and kind of watch Man at the Top from the 70s or something. But so I watched the show, and I watched about a good more than an hour of it. I watched about an hour of it, and at that time, within that hour, the Victorian kind of infirmary had kind of 24 hours to save it before it was going to go. The tenement was burning a la Grenfell House, and someone actually said, for the many and not the few. Someone actually said, for the many and not the few. So I would suggest, which was the Labour
slogan,
tagline for the election. So I would suggest that tells you everything you need to know. We have this kind of not all drama, but lots of drama. The kind of drama that I've just illustrated is almost like a kind of a bad writing workshop for second-rate wokeness.
Yeah.
And there's a sense that all of these things are just shoehorned into everything. And so if there's, political dramas, then they're from a very definite perspective. If there are historical dramas, they're not really about the past. Now, the historian E.H. Carr said, great history is as much about the present as it is about the past. But much of the stuff that you see on TV and much of the stuff that you see on film actually just are not about the past at all. It's the present dressed up in fancy dress that might be 19th or 18th century or the 1920s, but it is fundamentally now.
I think people do feel that. I mean, you feel when you're watching BBC drama now, or actually most drama, that in fact you're getting a certain message. I mean, with Christmas Carol, I thought that was a sort of landmark in that way for the reasons you've just said, but there were also other things about it. I mean, Scrooge himself was no longer just a curmudgeon. He was sort of like an arch capitalist. They dragged in the collapse of a mine. Bob Cratchit's family were mixed race, and it was just about everything. And you look at it and think, surely, if you write that if you want, but just don't be a parasite on someone else's work from the past.
I mean, there is that, and that's a really, really good point. But the other point is, and this feeds into lots and lots of research, and I'll give you an example in a minute. But the other point is, it's kind of quite boring because you know exactly what's going to happen, and you know exactly where the angle's going to be, the agenda's going to be. And I'll just give you an example. I'm on an editorial board for a series of books, and it's a fairly new series, so we're getting quite a few proposals for books in, and I just read one the other day, and it was an identitarian take on horror, the horror genre on television, and I didn't need to read the all of the proposal to know exactly what the findings were going to be in the final chapter. So there's a sense of, okay, you're going to do all of this research, but really, precisely what your findings are going to be. So there's not a huge amount of point in doing the research. Research should be a God, it's a hideous cliche, I shouldn't say it really, but a voyage of discovery. You're looking for new knowledge. And it feels as though lots of work, not all, I'm not kind of just saying everybody else's research is dreadful and mine's brilliant, but not at all. But it seems that lots of research within the parameters of the identitarian, it is by its very nature going to come out with the same things over and over again. And so for me, actually, going back to why should we change things and how should we change things? Okay, that's why we should change things. Okay, we know a lot of this. And I'm not saying that some of it isn't true. There is racism and there is sexism, and we do need to change some things. But that's not the only story. If you're looking at history, for example, and you're only looking for racism, and you're only looking for sexism, and you're only looking for transphobia, my God, you're going to find it, but you're going to find it anywhere. You can also find other things. You can also find other things, and I think that's one of the reasons why we should be looking at other methodologies. We should be looking at other subjects, and we should be thinking broader. And lots of people are, but I think there should be more people doing it.
On this point, BAFTA, the British Academy, and indeed the Academy in America, Academy of Motion Pictures, they have both adopted new criteria to get nominated, right? In if you're making a program or a drama or something, you have got to show certain things, usually to do with all along identity lines, either in front of the camera or behind it. I mean, does this not have a profound effect even on the very idea of creativity? If this is what if this is the main thing, or rather, if you're not going to get nominated unless you do that, then it entirely thwarts the real idea of free creativity, doesn't it?
I think it's a really good example of why a lot of this stuff comes from a good place. Okay, it's about wanting equality of opportunity, but somewhere along the line, it becomes an absolute rigid kind of a rigid definition of equality of outcome.
Equality of outcome.
Yeah, and I think those two things are very different things, and the idea of equality of outcome, I think you're absolutely right, is going to impact massively on the kinds of drama that we're looking at on all media, on radio, on television, on film, and there is going to be all of these things that we've just talked about. So there is going to be a very definite set of issues that are going to have to be addressed in every single thing you see, and they're going to relate to the identities of the people who are involved, and that idea of flattening, that idea of reducing drama, history, culture to race, sex, sexuality, identity. It's all we ever talk about. And I'm interested in it. Don't get me wrong, I am interested in it, and I'm not entirely against some quotas, but I just want the field to open up. I want academia, I want the arts, I want culture to be a marketplace of ideas, and I think that's what it should be. And I'm not necessarily sure it is at the moment.